In this video, guys, we're going to talk about symmetry. Now, there are two different kinds of symmetry. There is line symmetry and rotational symmetry. And we're going to walk through both of them. The first type, line symmetry, is the type of symmetry that you're probably used to. The type of symmetry that when we think about symmetry, if we know what we're thinking about, line symmetry is probably the place where we would go. The idea of line symmetry is that I can take a line and I can cut an object in half. So if I cut that object in half, and then if I took that object that's in half, I could fold it on top of itself, and it would be a perfect image on top. So this idea here, I can cut a heart in half, and this left piece of the heart would match straight up on top of the right heart. Almost like I could fold it in half, just like we fold pieces of paper in half. So maybe a basic form of line symmetry is like a heart. There's one line of symmetry. There's other shapes like, let's take a look at the star. Okay, the star does have line symmetry. Notice that I can cut it right down the middle here, and it has line symmetry. But can you find any more lines of symmetry on the star? You sure can. You could cut a line cutting through the star, something like that, and fold it this way. And actually, at each point of the star, I could draw another line of symmetry, and it would end up cutting the star in half in such a way that we could fold it. It's not just about cutting it in half, it's about being able to fold it and it to land on itself. So while the heart has one line of symmetry, this star has 5 lines of symmetry. Oh, I missed one. Oh, silly me. All right, let's get this last line on. So that way, there we go. Now we got our 5th line of symmetry. All right, so that star has 5 lines of symmetry. Now let's look at this shape. I made a shape here at the bottom. I don't know if it has a name or not. I guess we could name it like Bob or, I don't know, Drayshawn or something. I don't know. And we could draw a line that would cut this thing in half, right? But does that give it line symmetry? Actually, it doesn't, and here's why. Look, if I were to take and fold this in half, okay, so I've cut it in half, and I fold this corner over to this side, would it line up with the other side of the shape? It wouldn't. Even though I cut it in half, the folding part isn't going to lay up on top of itself. So this one does not have line symmetry. The other two do, 1 line and 5 lines of symmetry, but this image right here does not have lines of symmetry. All right, the second one we want to talk about is rotational symmetry. Now, rotational symmetry means that I can take an image and I can rotate it, kind of like a steering wheel. I could rotate it and it would land on top of itself. So the star is probably the easiest one to see here. I could rotate the star from this point 1 to this point 2, and it would look the exact same if I just took it and rotated it. And in fact, I could rotate it 3 times, and I would end up there. Or I could rotate it 4 times, and actually I can go 5 times the whole way around my star, rotating my star. So it has rotational symmetry. Let's go back to looking at this picture that we made, this weird blue thing. I think what do we name it? Drayshawn. I could rotate this shape, and I could end it up in the same spot. Like if I thought about it kind of like having a pin on it right there, okay, I could rotate it around and I would end up in the same place. So this one would have rotational symmetry. Now let's look at this heart here. Does this heart have rotational symmetry? Well, there's no place for me. If I rotate it halfway, it's just an upside down heart, and if I rotate it the whole way round, I'm just back to where I started. So this heart does not have rotational symmetry. So there's your 2 basic ideas. There's line symmetry, so like the heart or the star, and there's rotational symmetry, like the star, this blue figure here. Both of those would have rotational symmetry. So just because the shape has line symmetry doesn't mean it has rotational symmetry. In the same way, just because it has line symmetry doesn't mean it doesn't have rotational symmetry. The 2 work independently. So let me run you through the IXLs that we're going to do here. The first one should be really easy. The first one is just straight up choose the pictures with symmetry. So I take a look here. And it looks like this shovel has symmetry, and you choose it, and that's correct, and you keep on moving. Okay, so that shouldn't take much more than, 5 minutes. Okay, the second one is which one has rotational symmetry. And so we're going to see which ones we can rotate. So we can't rotate the leaf. The lemon, if we were like facing it straight on, would have rotational symmetry, but the actual picture here doesn't. This carpet does have rotational symmetry. And in this place, colors do matter, okay? So you can't just, if like one side is blue, the other side is red, it does make a difference. So you could keep choosing your different rotational symmetries. This one should be pretty easy to do until you get to 80. Now, I do want you to get to this one to 100. Let me just show you what to do here. This is a little bit tricky. And I want to make sure that you kind of have it right. Now, look, guys. If you get stuck on this one and you're like struggling, and you're not able to get it right, please do not struggle for like an hour on this. Do your best, and if you get to an 80 or if you get to an 85 or something like that and you have to call it quits, that's okay, all right? I don't want you spending like an hour on this IXL. Do the best you can, watch the video, and then if you need to move on to the next IXL, if you need to, you can always check in with me for help on this one. So this one asks, not does it have rotational symmetry, but how many degrees with the smallest number of degrees of rotational symmetry. Now we're going to solve this the same way every time. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to count the number of rotations. Now this one's kind of a tricky one, so I'm going to start here. And really it's all the seeds, right? If I've got seeds, I can count them. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and we could keep counting the whole way around, and we end up 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so there's 12 seeds here, and you don't need me to count them out for you. All right, now here's what we're going to do. We have our number. We're going to always, every time, take 360, that's a whole rotation, and divide it by the number we came up with. So that would come out to 30. All right. That's all we're going to do every time. 360 divided by that number. So let's take a look here. Let's make sure this turns out right. All right, let's look at this one. We'll do one more here. How many times does it rotate? Well, it rotates. I've got 1, 2, 3. I'm looking at those, not the gear pieces, but the one that shows up the least, which would be these spokes, okay? So I'm looking right here. 1, 2, 3 spokes, so every single time, 360 divided by that number, and I get 120. All right, so hopefully that gets you a general idea of how to do these problems. If you get stuck, let me know. This one, we would count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 360 divided by 5 would be 72, okay? So hopefully that's helpful to you. Let's look at the last one here. The last one might take a few more minutes than the other ones, but I think it's going to be helpful. They want you on this one to draw all the lines of symmetry. So what you're going to do is you're going to click line 1. You're going to pick the 2 points for your line symmetry. You're going to check it. That looks good. And then just submit it. All right. Now, there are different ones that have more than one line of symmetry. Let's say I want another line of symmetry or to draw another line of symmetry. And so I'm going to hit line 2, and then I say, I'm going to draw my line like this. All right, well, I recognize that's not right. And so what do I do if I want to get rid of a line? Say I've added like a whole bunch of lines here. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click the 2 points. Oh, okay, so right now I'm on line 4. I'm going to click line 2 to go back to line 2, and I'm going to click the 2 points, and that'll get rid of my line 2. Okay, so sometimes students get kind of caught up, and they're on line 4, right? Or they're on line 2 trying to get rid of line 4, and they're not sure how to do it. Okay, if we want to get rid of one, click that color, click the 2 points, that'll get rid of that line. But there are some of these that need more than one line. Let's see if I can find one here. Yeah, like this H, we could cut down the middle like this, and we could also cut across the middle this way as well. So you need to find all the lines for each of them. You only need to get to 80, or I think I have 90 on there. You need to get to 90 on this one, so you don't need to get to 100 because I know this one can be a little bit tedious. All right, I hope that's helpful. Let me know if you get stuck, and I'll be glad to help.